Welcome to another edition of the Racing Insiders. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. We're going to be joined today by Peter Keene in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and Jim Daniels in Memphis. We're going to be talking about the sports car merger. That's an old story. We've talked about it before, but there's something new that's being thrown in the pot, this licensing agreement with DTM. First of all, let's find out any updates on the Grand Am ALMS merger. Peter, you're part of the Spirit of Daytona team. What do you know?
Well, I mean, there's no real updates except for, that they're just pushing forward to try and balance LMP2 and the Grand Am Daytona prototypes. I mean, it's all kinds of rumors swirling around. Here it is, already into the racing season, and we really don't know what 14 is going to look like. I mean, that's the biggest concern I think that we have in the paddock.
And that's a key issue. Teams want to know as soon as they can so they can plan, so they can find money. This issue of the DTM, while they're trying to get money to run a merged program, they're trying to start a whole nother series. Jim, what do you know about that?
Well, look, it's some exciting news that's been bouncing around since 2010, widely written about. And the insiders on this are saying that NASCAR guys and the Grand Am guys are getting savvy. They want to figure out, how do we fill these grandstands and how can we fill a void we haven't had in previous years? And they only need to look to that Circuit of the America Formula One race and that Canadian race and say, okay, some of the people that's in that crowd come to our Grand Am and ALMS races separately, but not all of those people. How can we get those people out? And I think that the brass is assuming that a 75-minute sprint race with one superstar and a DTM car as a support race for a big endurance race like at Sebring or at Daytona is going to get that kind of crowd out, because it's obvious that the NASCAR crowd is not supporting road racing.
Let me jump in here, Jim, because I think that's crucial. We're going to talk about this later, but I think we've got to find out who that person is in the crowd. Is that a NASCAR fan? Is that a World Challenge fan? Is it an F1 fan? We've got to find out who those people are, and are they coming to the races now? We were talking to a promoter later on who found out that the people who support DTM and Super GT, they're not going to racing. They're on their computers playing video games. These DTM and Super GT cars look wild. That's what they make the video games out of. That might be the key question in what's going on.
I agree. And let's just say this. We're going to have more fans show up for DTM race with ex-Formula One drivers in it than we are with ex-NASCAR or ex-World Sports Car drivers in it,
exactly,
like we may have in Grand Am.
Exactly. And we've got a driver, Joey Hand, who drives for BMW in the DTM. Very fast. He raced last year. He came back this year. He's going to tell us a little bit. He's a driver. He wants people to see him drive. We're going to talk to Joey Hand right after this.
Let us know what you think about what the Racing Insiders have to say. Tell us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back. That speed beats, I like that to get you a little energy going. We got enough energy going with these conversations. We've already talked about Joey Hand, a DTM driver who runs for BMW. Let's hear what he has to say. All drivers want a crowd watching them, and that's kind of where Joey Hand is coming from when he talks about bringing DTM to the United States.
Joey Hand, it's good to talk to you again, to catch up, and good luck on the DTM. There's some talk about maybe bringing that here. You think that format would work here in the United States?
A lot of people ask me that. It's tough to tell. I think it would be really intriguing to a lot of people. It's not F1, but it's pretty extreme. It's it's in that realm. It's a touch below F1, and it's got roofs. And I think over here, I think a lot of people like the closed wheel format, and I think it'd be interesting. I mean, it's definitely good, hard racing. Can you make it happen? Do we have all the teams and all the equipment that you need to make it happen as quick as they're talking? I don't know, but for me, I'd love to see I'd love to see DTM in the U.S. in some shape or form. You know, I'm the only American in DTM, which I fly the flag proudly. But man, it would be so awesome if I could get my family and friends and, you know, and just the fans that support me over there from the U.S., if they could come see it live in the U.S., I think it'd be great.
Jim, we've heard from Joey Hand, one of the fast guys in DTM. He'd like to see it here, but he's not clear where all of it's going to come from. Peter, what do you think? You're close to the GT racing and Grand Am. What do you think?
Hey, we've had Joey Hand drive for us, Joey Quick Hands, that is, at the Spirit of Daytona. I'd love to see him on American soil again. I mean, it's great racing. If they can bring the excitement that they have over there with those big car fields and the guys running into each other and climbing the curbs and hanging two wheels in the air, and especially if Joey's at the front, it'd be great. It's going to be hard for success, I think. I mean, if they could run a limited schedule, 1 or 2 weekends, that'd be, you know, at COTA maybe and at Montreal, I think it could be a success. I just don't see it as a 10 or 12, 14 race weekend here in America, though.
And that's the key issue, I think, isn't it, Jim? You've got some background information. I think the issue, a lot of people are asking the question, look, we're just merging and getting a number of things under one umbrella. Why do we need to bring it under another umbrella with DTM?
Yeah, well, first, before I get to that, you know, Joey's exactly right. We need a DTM race here. He needs the race here. We need more involvement. And the key there...
A race, but a series?
The series needs to be here, it needs to race here. And here's the reason why. If you just look at the P1 group drivers, I'm a P1 group driver with Eric Birch, and in scanning those guys, a lot of these guys have lost income. They can't double dip no more with the aft merger of ALMS and GA. This DTM would give them ability to double dip and make more income. So obviously the Joey Hands of the world love this because now they have more cars, more availability to race, okay? But the other reason we need this is we have a void. We have a void in a series that has stars, Formula One guys, ex-Formula One, the Timo Glocks of the world, racing in a series in a sprint format. Some of these fans, sports car fans, get lost in 4-hour races with 2 drivers, and it's just difficult. I think that the brass at Grand Am think this DTM will fill that, and it certainly will benefit the drivers here. Now, for them to do that, these manufacturers have got to get on board, Bill. And the problem with that is you can't even get a consensus in Europe among the main manufacturers, BMW and Mercedes. Mercedes wants an all-out war in the engineering department. BMW wants more standardized rules and get out of Germany. So for this to work, we really need a unified set of rules. And they need to handle that in Europe among them and the Japan cars and then bring that successful formula with their stars to America. And I think we'll have some venues and we'll have more fans show up.
Well, I think part of the issue... Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I'd just like to comment. I mean, I understand Jim's concern about drivers double dips, but I mean, I think it's more important that road races are successful in the United States than how the drivers are getting paid. Maybe the key ingredient we're missing is sprint races. Maybe it's not endurance races. Maybe it's sprint races, and maybe DTM fills that void. I just don't see having the quality field.
They're talking about this for another couple of years. They're not talking about bringing this new series until 2015. And the bigger issue is they say that unless the manufacturers step up, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, unless they step up, then maybe there won't be a series. I think that might be the key issue that we're avoiding here, is that they're leaving themselves an out. Right. We've got 2 years to talk about this, and if the manufacturers don't want to do it, we'll find another way.
Well, and think about it in this light as well. There's more chatter among IndyCar teams and the Sam Smiths of the world about a DTM being something that they could add, something that they could market, something that would complement their teams. You're not hearing any Daytona prototype teams even thinking about doing DTM. And that is the difference between trying to take NASCAR fans road racing and bringing a true international series with superstars in a sprint format.
That's kind of a key thing we're going to talk about in the next segment with Michael Krumm, a 2-time Super GT champion. He's running DTM, and he's talking about universal rules. We'll hear from Michael Krumm right after this. What's happening? We thought we had this all worked out. Now there's somebody else stirring the pot, bringing DTM to the United States. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
This segment of the Racing Insiders was brought to you by GoRacingTV.com. For racers, by racers.
Welcome back. Let's get right to Michael Krumm. He is a racer, won 2 championships in Super GT in Japan, and he's also raced in the DTM. So we wanted to get his opinion on whether or not this DTM Super GT to the United States, is that going to work? Here's Michael Krumm.
So that's, I think, really, really good that everybody is trying to achieve the same regulations. I think that is really, really something that could change motorsports a lot and make it more easy also to understand for the public and the fans. They'd say, okay, this is this car's all same category, and you could compete against each other and compare each other much easier all around the world. There's always been talks that should Japan go after DTM or vice versa, or should we go after the US regulations? I don't think that we need to say, okay, this is the best car or this should be like the Super GT cars. No, that's certainly not the way. I think we need to have exciting racing, really fantastic sport, big battles, and a chance for all the manufacturers to take part, as well as privateers. So to unify everything is really the key point here for me.
All right, we've heard from a racer. Obviously, racers want to race, but they want to have universal rules, universal standards, according to Michael Krumm, one guy. You think that's going to work, Jim? I have my opinions. You think it'll work?
Well, you know, I like to see that guy and the guy that the engineer for the Delta Wing in the bar having a couple of beers. They certainly are from two schools of thought. You know, I'm a spec racing guy, but that usually is on the lower budget, lower level areas. When you have an international series that's arguably has got to be a manufacturer-driven teams, they got to let their hair down a little bit for some rules. So yes, should we unify some weights and wheel sizes and some things like that and keep the aero in check? I would agree that all series need to have that to be competitive in this economic environment. But let's make no mistake about it. DTM, if it turns into a spec series, and I hate to say this, Peter, but if it turns into something like what Daytona prototypes are, I don't know that we will get that extra fan that goes to the Formula One race like watches those DTM races right now.
What do you think, Peter?
Well, I kind of agree with you. You know, the funny thoughts that when I was listening to, you know, the quote there is that essentially, you know, in my experience, even with like B-Spec, you know, getting guys together that you like and know to lump together to get one rule set can be a problem. That sometimes it's like herding cats. The other thing, and you know, I think Jim's right that there's got to be some technology if DTM is going to be successful in the world. I mean, so there's going to have to be a balance there to try and get a spec type car, kind of like Jim saying, some parameters, and then also, you know, let guys do innovation where they can.
Wait a minute. One of the problems that we have with a universal standard is who's the universe? Is the universe going to be European-based? Is it going to be Asian-based? Or is it going to be North American-based?
Right.
And the cars, if we ask manufacturers to be involved, the manufacturers want to make their issues paramount in the series, and that can't be. Look what happened to Champ Car and Kart. They argued themselves into oblivion.
I think with the DTM, Bill, let me jump in there. I think with the DTM, if you look since 2000, they quit the series in '96. Rules running rampant. They were running Formula One cars with a little bit of bodywork hanging out. They reformed this series in 2000. They've not missed a season since 2000. Yes, it's the most expensive type of sports car racing probably in the world. Okay, but they have got the formula somewhat right, and that's based on what BMW, Audi, Mercedes wants. If they bring these other manufacturers to the table and they listen to what the manufacturers want, which is what they've done this last 12 or 13 years, this can work.
Completely agree with you. It can work, but it's going to be a big argument. I mean, even when we put guys that like each other around a table, you know, especially manufacturers, they want to win. And when it comes down to it, they want to win and they want to have an advantage. So
the truest thing you said there, Peter, is that the manufacturers want to win. And if they find an edge or they can get an edge, that's what they want to exploit.
And that even goes back to even the simple, back to Grand Am merger. I mean, you know, Ford wants to run an EcoBoost motor and Chevrolet wants to run a 7-liter V8. You know, I mean, there's already problems even in this little world. Never mind bringing all that in.
We haven't talked about the real realities here, and that's fans. If we could put fans in the seats, they're the ones that are going to buy the tickets. The only man who stepped up and actually sold tickets two fans in the Super GT context is a friend of mine, Rany Grube. He's a promoter. He did it in 2004 in a thing called GT Live. He brought the predecessor to Super GT, JGTC, to California, had some success. He doesn't think, though, that this licensing agreement is the way to work. Let's listen to Rany Grube.
No, it has to be the real thing, or it's not going to work. I mean, the reason people were so interested in coming to the GT Live event is because it was the first time the real thing had ever been here. I mean, we did surveys on all the ticket buyers, and from 49 out of the 50 states, the only state where we didn't have a ticket buyer from was it was either North or South Dakota, one of those two. So we pulled everybody that wanted to do this and see this out of the woodwork because it was the real thing. And I think, you know, the other thing too is if you look at a racing product, there's two types of racing products. There's the racing product that has the drivers as stars, and there's the racing product that has the cars as stars. And very rarely do you have both. And at the time, we brought the most desirable cars as seen from a youth audience to the United States. And if you don't bring the real thing, if you do a licensing deal and you start building Buicks and Cadillacs and Chevrolets that aren't driven in Germany and they aren't driven in Japan, and I just don't see how that's going to work.
Leave it to a promoter to really understand what's going on. He's got to sell the tickets. The manufacturers can put the cars out there, but he's got to sell the tickets. Peter, what do you think about what Rany Grube had to say?
Well, I kind of agree with what he had to say, but he kind of had a one-off deal there. You know, I mean, to promote it as a series, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, I think that, you know, there is a camp in this country that thinks technology is the way to go. You know, the cars are the stars. That's kind of been ALMS's model, you know, but I mean, that hasn't really been that successful. So it's a tough sell. Is a one or two off, you know, like we said, if we just did, you know, maybe Coda and Montreal, yeah, but I kind of agree with him. I think it's a tough sell. It's going to be hard to be a series.
What do you think about it, Jim?
Well, I think that he's spot on regarding the cars are the drivers, and the problem with American road racing now is we don't have either one. So I think that there is, you know, if Grand Am and the brass would not be grabbing for whatever series they could grab if they didn't think that they are close to finding some sort of niche to energize a fan base. And
you know,
what you're seeing, you know, we've not had that right now. I know Scott Pruitt's of the world, the Randy Posts of the world are famous within our little group. But these other guys are international stars, are famous globally. And I think that the Grand Am guys would like for our road race stars to be famous globally.
You know, I think that's important. I think the cars, in the case of DTM at least, the cars with these wings and flares and flames from the turbos, I think that's what gets the fans interested, and they'll come out. If we legislate that out of existence universally or whatever, I think it's going to be a huge problem. We're still not finished. Are you kidding me? That's coming up next.
Are you kidding me?
We're back. Are you kidding me? Peter, what's on your mind?
My Are You Kidding Me is, as a rules maker in SCCA, I'm tired of people protecting their own garage. I mean, I got committee member guys that protect their garage. They're all a bunch of sandbaggers, and they don't want to tell the truth. And then, you know, the first time they get beat, they're the first ones to call and cry the loudest. I mean, my Are You Kidding Me is quit protecting your own garage. Let's be fair and all go race.
Okay. Jim, what's on your mind today?
Well, are you kidding me? I'm going to go positive with my Are You Kidding Me and tip my hat to the folks down at the Circuit of the Americas who put on one spectacular club event. We've crisscrossed this country, most of us on this panel, to every track in America, Canada, even Mexico. And we've had our run-ins with disgruntled track workers, unorganized track management. We got down to a race that was absolutely overflowed. We broke every safety rule that is probably in place down there. And instead of looking for ways to not be helpful to competitors, they were rushing out golf carts. They were bringing over things to protect their asphalt for us. We happened to be parked into the overflow, which is literally a parking lot. You're not supposed to be driving four-wheelers there. You can't have access to the pits with your normal street cars. cars. They blew all those rules out of the water, bent over backwards for us to make that event. And I say COTA is my "Are you kidding me?" Thanks for a nice job done, guys.
That's good. Looking at it from a distance, I'd have to agree, Jim. My "Are you kidding me?" is about this DTM deal. We've talked about it for a half an hour. I just don't see how anybody, after years of fighting between the ALMS and Grand Am, we finally get a merger. We finally figure out a way to make all of this stuff work. And with all these people standing on the sidelines begging to spend their money, we're going to throw it out there again. You bring in a race from Super GT on the West Coast and DTM on the East Coast, but a whole new series, I just don't see it's necessary. We'll be right back right after this. Are you kidding me? We're coming back. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Racing Insiders. I'm Bill Wood. We've got Peter King in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and Jim Daniels in Memphis. Guys, this is about it. We're about finished with the show. What do you got to say for yourself, Jim?
Well, I want to say that Jim Daniels _JD is my Twitter, and I'd love to hear from all the fans and folks watching, topic, interest, what I said wrong, what you don't like, what you like, or if you just want to join the show, it's Jim Daniels _JD. We love to interact with you and answer questions as best we can there. And I just want to challenge Peter that he's got to bring his A game on these back and forths because I'm ready for it.
Oh, Jim, come on. I mean, I've been letting you, you've been all not very healthy, so I've been letting you get your strength up before we really take you on. That's going to be no problem at all. And hey, I want everybody to check out SDR Motorsports. We got a lot of good videos up there, you know, from our race weekends and other antics that we got going on. So
there you go. You see, with that kind of conversation, now you know what we talk about during the breaks. We're all on each other's necks. That's a good thing. The Racing Insiders. Right here, MAVTV. Come on back and join us next week. Great show. You'll enjoy it. I promise. Guaranteed.